We are going to get to Austin Elmore.
In
just a second. I told him, this is what I love about a true professional like Austin Elmore, is I say, hey, can you get on? We need to do a little segment around 11 o'clock. And he gets on about 10:55. He is so prompt. Listen, I'm not a professional. Austin is a professional. You tell me to come on at 11, I'm coming on at 10:58. It's probably why I didn't get to go on the van. Once again, I didn't want to go on the road trip. Even if they would have invited me, I didn't get invited. If they would have invited me, I wouldn't have gone. All right? Stop asking. If I get one more DM saying, Reed, why aren't you on the van? I didn't want to go. I swear. Why would I want to go to Vegas? Why would I want to go to Arizona? It doesn't sound like fun. I'd rather be here in Hamilton. But without further ado, it's my man Austin Elmore, co-host of Cincy 360 on ESPN 1530. Audie, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Why aren't you on the van?
See, I knew you were going to ask this. I didn't want to be on the van. No, I didn't get invited. Right. I don't know if I've said that.
Is that true, or are you just saying that?
I swear I did not get invited. So in the past 3 weeks, Austin, my boss has kicked me off the show. And he took a 2-week vacation to Arizona, Vegas, Colorado, and didn't invite me. Am I pouting about it? No, because I'm a brave little toaster. And I
Are you updating the resume?
Yeah, Cincy 360.
Okay. No, it might be something to think about.
All right. I think I'm going to get fired here soon. Would you go in a van for 36 hours? You're good friends with Elliot. Used to work with him.
Yeah.
Would you be in a van for 36 hours?
No chance. Not with Elliot, no.
Listen. I agree. I absolutely
agree.
agree.
With everybody else? Yeah, probably. With Elliot, no.
Kirby, Trace, they seem like nice
Kirby's
guys.
Kirby's great. Yeah, Trace, lovely. Yeah.
Right.
Elliot.
All right, so we didn't talk, and I didn't want to talk, but Bearcats do play Oklahoma, and I don't have a whole lot to add to that conversation. You text me and said, hey, listen, it's a must-win game. Don't know what else don't know what else to bring into that one. So you know what? We're gonna avoid that.
I feel like we've said the same thing about the Bearcats over and over and over from the beginning of the season until now, and it just keeps culminating in the same game over and over and over again. And that's what's going to happen tonight. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's another must-win game. We've had about 13 of them, and you know what's funny about the must-win game? Sometimes they lose, and the next one just matters. So maybe the previous must-win games weren't must-win games. We talked about 45 minutes about the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes. Other people have labeled this offseason as the most important offseason of our lifetime, maybe the most important offseason of the Bengals franchise history. A lot of holes to fill. What do you think the biggest hole to fill is for the Bengals this offseason?
For me, it's the defensive line. It's always been the defensive line. The way that they were gashed on the ground and the way that being gashed on the ground led to explosive plays through the air against this defense and chunk plays all over the field, it just put them in such a precarious situation all season long, in which they had their backs up against the wall and they're giving up yards and they're giving up points and they're making it harder on an offense that was already hampered for as long as it was with an injured Burrow. And then when Burrow goes out, just not being able to stop the run first and foremost, and nobody opposite of Trey Hendrickson that can get consistent pressure. And additionally, pressure from the interior of the defensive line. They don't have that guy. DJ Reader obviously goes down with an injury. BJ Hill made some plays here and there, but has lost, I think, the consistent disruptiveness that we saw earlier in his career. And, you know, Sam Hubbard was banged up, and you didn't get as much from Miles Murphy as you hoped. Came on strong at the end of the year, but still a lot there. So to me, the front seven and primarily the interior of the defensive line, somebody that can stop the run and provide pressure from the interior, is the most important thing.
Yeah, we talked a lot about, Christian Wilkins comes out and he's going to be a free agent. Obviously, everyone knows that the best interior defensive lineman in the league right now, I think he took that title from Aaron Donald, is Chris Jones, and he's a free agent. Though I kind of assume that he's going to wind up in Kansas City when all is said and done. But the last 5 Super Bowl winners, have been won with an elite pass rush on the interior defensive line. How important is it, do you think? Not just like DJ Reader's, I don't think he's a good run stopper, but he doesn't push the line back. When you push the pocket back, you give the defense such an advantage. Do you think the Bengals should go out and seriously try to get a guy like Chris Jones or Christian Watkins?
Yeah, I don't know if those guys are going to be I don't know if that's going to be within their price range, and Wilkins especially because he's a David Mulligeta client, and we know how those negotiations typically go between the Bengals and David Mulligeta, so that's something to keep in mind. Um, but if you look back at the last several years, that has been where their focus has been in free agency and in the offseason. DJ Reader, free agent acquisition. Trey Hendrickson, free agent acquisition. BJ Hill, they traded for during training camp. Larry Ogunjobi, who they have
Mm-hmm.
missed desperately, somebody they went out and got and was able to provide that pass rush from the interior during their Super Bowl run. So that has been a point of emphasis for them in free agency the last couple of years. And if you look at the draft class this year, there's maybe one or two guys that you feel like could come in and be impactful, but you don't know if they're going to be there at 18, and they're certainly not going to be there the second round when your pick comes up. And so to me, I think it puts a bigger emphasis on being active around the defensive line during free agency. I don't know that Jones and Wilkins are in the price range. Matabuke was really interesting, but it
Mm-hmm.
looks like the Ravens are going to put the tag on him. There's a couple of other interesting names out there. Jonathan Allen was floated around from Washington. He can be really disruptive on the interior. I do think they'll try to get Reader back to kind of stuff up the run a little bit. But there are a few names out there, the Ashawn Robinsons types of guys that can come in and be impactful and be a part of that rotation, assuming BJ Hill is not a cap casualty with that $7 million or whatever it is that
Mm-hmm.
they would save by cutting him. But yes, I think that's going to be a big priority for them as somebody in the free agency period.
One uncomfortable conversation I think Bengals fans aren't having enough. It's starting to come up now. Was his last year talk on this defense is we're not getting enough pass rush. We're not getting to the quarterback enough. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson does it at an elite clip. Top of the league in sacks. Did he break the franchise record? I think he did break the franchise record. But you start asking yourself, all right, well, one guy's doing it at an elite clip, and we're not getting enough.
Mm-hmm.
Is the other guy pulling his weight? That's obviously Sam Hubbard. Everyone wants to talk about how they need more pass rush. Nobody wants to talk about how you get there. Hometown kid, Ohio State guy. Everyone loves him here in town. He's a great person, Sam Hubbard. But is it time that we start looking elsewhere in the DN? Like, do we think Miles Murphy should be the starting defensive end opposite of Trey Hendrickson next year? Or do you think it's
really
a role between the switch?
Really interesting to find out how they go about this, because Sam is a elite run defender and has been from the moment he stepped in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson's been the exact opposite. So when you think about an offensive game plan, it's quite simple. We're going to run the ball away from Trey Hendrickson. We're going to get the quarterback outside the pocket towards Sam Hubbard and get away from Trey Hendrickson. That way, we're going to run the ball at Trey Hendrickson. We're going to run it away from Hubbard. So that sort of thing has been easy for them to figure out. Miles Murphy, not as big of an impact player. Joseph Osai disappeared for most of this season, and he was supposed to be an impact player as well. So I'm curious to see if they can get something out of Sam, get creative with Sam in a different role. Maybe he's the guy who comes in on the interior during those pass rush downs. Maybe that fits him better than being the edge on the outside. Maybe Cam Sample gets more of those opportunities. Obviously, Miles Murphy. So, yeah, the Bengals have kind of gone out of their way over the last few weeks to make it known that Sam Hubbard was not 100%, basically playing on one leg, that he had to have surgery and all that, and that they expect him to be back at a more consistent level. So I think that's interesting. I think it just kind of goes to show the type of player that Sam is. But yeah, I think if you look at the film and you evaluate this defense and you say, yeah, Trey is great, but Sam isn't. And Joseph Osai wasn't there. And Murphy was inconsistent. And Cam Sample is primarily a run defender. That part of the defensive line has to be better in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, they're certainly going to need to take a step up. That's good stuff. Sam Hubbard moving, maybe playing a different role on pass or on passing downs. That's certainly interesting. All right, big news about T. Higgins. Obviously, the Bengals tagged him. We talked about what the Bengals were going to do for this role for months, seemingly months, and really actually years, because we knew that this was an inevitability. They tag him. It seems most likely, based on the history of the Cincinnati Bengals, that he just plays on his tag. And next year, you wave goodbye, you shake his hand, say thanks for your service, T. Higgins. But you're in charge of player personnel. You have T. Higgins where he's at right now on a franchise tag. What do you do with T. Higgins?
I would trade him. That's what I would do right now. I just think the acquisition of draft picks becomes vital over the next several years. And we just talked about it. There's a hole on the offensive line. There's a hole in the running back room. There's a hole, in a way, on the linebackers. There's a hole certainly on the defensive line. There's a lot of holes to fix on a team that has to spend a lot of money on their quarterback and their wide receiver. And Evan McPherson's going to get an extension here soon as well. So there's a lot of money that has to be shelled out, and there's a lot of parts of this offense and defense that need to be fixed. And so to me, acquiring draft picks at low cost is going to be the best way to do that. So I would try to trade T for a top 40, top 45 pick in the draft, get another wide receiver. That's another hole. Tyler Boyd is more than likely gone. Tight end, we talk a lot about Brock Bowers potentially being the pick. Like, there are holes everywhere, and you need as many opportunities to fill them as possible. I think the strategy that makes the most sense is to trade T. Higgins. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think that they negotiated Burrow's contract, and they've got this extra room with the cap to say, okay, listen, we can spend more this year to get closer and get a chance to run it all back with everybody healthy this year. And we'll keep Joe happy in doing that and keep T. Higgins around and see what happens next year. I mean, hell, they could theoretically franchise tag him again next year for, I think, $27 million. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but all the other money starts to come in. That's where it starts to get hairy. But I think they're going to keep him around. I think what you said is probably going to be accurate, that they'll let him go. But at the same time, I think the best move for the organization right now would be to trade him.
I 100%. I think if they
and I want to say, I don't think keeping him is a bad move. I think
Correct.
It's a good move. I think trading him is a great move. I think if you would have let him walk this year, that's an awful move.
Right. Out of all the possibilities, and really there's only 2 at this moment. Well, 3. You could still extend him. Out of the 3 possibilities, I'm okay with all of them. The one I favor is to trade. And the reason, you mentioned it, if you can get a top 40 pick for T. Higgins, if someone calls you up and says, hey, we'll give you our early second-round pick or our late first-round pick for T. Higgins right now, you don't hang up the phone. You call the league office and you get it done then and there. And the reason is, and people often say, well, you don't know what you're going to get with a wide receiver in the draft. You know what you have with T. Higgins, who's a phenomenal wide receiver. I challenge them. And Austin, I don't know if you've seen this, but go look at the first-round picks of the last 4 drafts that are wide receivers. There's been 21 of them drafted. 16 of them are great players. 16. That's not an unknown quantity. That is as surefire as you're going to get in the draft. And it's continuing to get better. It's another great wide receiver draft. So I don't think they're going to get a top 40 pick for T. Higgins, because other teams know this well, that this is a great wide receiver draft. So why would you go take a guy for a year and extend when you can just draft a guy? Neither here nor there. All right, offensive line. Free agent, draft, or a hybrid of the both? How do you replace that right tackle?
Hybrid of the both. I think that the draft is probably the best place for them right now, just because of the amount of offensive tackles in this draft. And we saw it certainly on display at the Combine. There are guys all over the place that can come in. I read a mock draft this morning from Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and he had tackles going off the board all over the place before the Bengals at 18. And I think that becomes a really interesting possibility, is if that were to take place, number one, you would like to have something done in free agency prior to the draft where you feel good enough about it if, the draft comes and goes and you don't get that right tackle that you want. That also provides a lot of flexibility potentially for them to trade back in this draft, which I don't think is really all that unlikely. I think the Bengals might trade this pick back a little bit and to have the same conversation we just had, to acquire more of those picks, especially if they're not moving on from T. Higgins. But that being said, it's a much better draft class than it is a free agent class. In the free agent class, obviously, you're going to be required to spend a lot more money. But you also look around and you say, yeah, Jake Browning, that was a cool story last year, but I'm tired of Joe Burrow being hurt. And, the calf injury is not the offensive line's fault. And the wrist injury altogether is not the offensive line's fault. But the overarching point is the Bengals are not as good of a team when Joe Burrow is not on the field, and you have to do everything in your power to protect him. I think what's really interesting is what if a J.C. Latham and a Brock Bowers are both on the board when the Bengals are on the clock? We're right back to the essential Chase versus Sewell debate.
Right.
And the first time they made the right decision, Penei Sewell, by the way, is one of the best left tackles in football. They would have been good either way. And now they're kind of in that same situation because there's probably going to be a wide receiver around that pick too that they're going to really, really like. There's going to be some guys that they can add to the offense. But to me, it in terms of like priority for the Bengals this offseason, it's defensive line, offensive line, then everything else in my mind.
Yeah, listen. Those are premiums, right? The lines, the hog mollies, the front guys. Those
hog
are
mollies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
mollies.
You never heard that one?
That's heard that.
That is
that
from.
What they used to call you back in the day?
No, fullback here. Fullback. I was
come on now.
Lower in that show.
I see you working, biggin.
Yeah. That was from NCAA football. I think it was
mollies, really?
Yeah, called the hog mollies up front. But yes.
What do you think about Arch Manning not going into the game at NCAA football?
That read to me as he said, "My name's worth more than $600." But
I saw somebody say he doesn't want to be a 59 overall backup.
That'd be funny.
That's kind of an idea.
Could be. All right. Before I let you go, you talked about the biggest priorities are defensive line, offensive line. The secondary got torched last year, but you saw some shine. Guys like Jordan Battle, Cam Taylor-Britt came through and kind of cemented himself as the cornerback of the future, my idea of the secondary. How much faith do you have in this secondary going into next year?
Feel pretty good about it. I think the other question, in a way, like we talked about with Sam Hubbard, is where is Dax Hill going to play? What is his role going to be? How can Lou Anarumo get creative with him? I think you feel really good about Jordan Battle. I think you feel really good about Cam Taylor-Britt. You're okay about Dax Hill, and you're okay about DJ Turner. I think DJ Turner kind of hit a wall last year. I mean, he played into the college football playoff and obviously got trounced in that game, but then had some really bright moments his rookie year and then also looked like a rookie at times, almost identical to the rookie season of Cam Taylor-Britt. And so I think that if those two were on a similar trajectory, the Bengals are in really good shape. I love everything that I saw out of Jordan Battle. It's just how can you get consistency out of Dax Hill? And everything is connected. When the defensive line's not playing well, the linebackers don't play well. When the linebackers don't play well, that creates holes that the safeties can't fill. And I think a lot of the times last year when they were giving up so many explosive plays, we were saying, God, they miss Jesse Bates and they miss Von Bell. But I think a lot of it is connected to their inability to rush the passer. And so if you improve that part, you improve your secondary as well. You make their life easier. I totally expect them to draft another cornerback, and they might draft a cornerback in the first 2 rounds. That's the weird part about this team. And again, the idea of them trading back is they've got so many holes that you want to be able to fill. Chidobe Awuzie more than likely going to be a free agent as well. So you have to address that. The secondary was concerning at times last year, but I think with another year of them kind of playing together and with Lou Anarumo still being there, I think it can be a good thing for them. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, the one thing that troubles me most about the defense is the step back that Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt took. And what troubles me most about that is we go into next year, just hope they play better because that's the answer, right? They're going to play linebacker next year. No. Hope they play better. Austin, before I let you go, we're going to do something here. I know you're a big music guy. What's your favorite album of all time? You have rank them all
album of all time.
You Cincy 360, you do rank them all the time, right? You do all these things. What's your favorite album of all time?
Probably Eminem's Relapse album.
Eminem's Relapse. That's what, like 08? That was later.
Something
Slim.
along those lines.
That was later.
Slim. I don't remember for sure.
Do you think Eminem's the GOAT?
Yeah.
That's a terrible take.
I don't think it's particularly close. It's like him, Lil Wayne's up there, Wheezy Baby.
Oh my goodness. Did you stop listening to music in 2009?
Most of the time, yeah. That's when I fell in love with football.
Fair enough. Austin, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you hopping on the show. Be nice to all the talkbackers. If you get a Kermit that says some disparaging things about your other co-host, I promise it wasn't me.
Okay. Well, I hope it was.
See you, Audie.